So we are the Life program, and we are 4 individuals that have comprised to make a nonprofit, and we're excited to share our capstone presentation with you today.
So today we're going to cover who we are, what we do, our goals, our process, and just kind of our outcome for this program. So LIFE stands for Leadership Initiative for Environmental Education. We are a non-profit, and our goal is to focus on bringing and teaching a renewable and sustainable life from the beginning.
So my name is Casey. I just graduated from Kansas State University with a degree in architectural engineering.
I'm Holly, aka Viking, but I study at Champlain College in environmental policy.
My name is Jose, and I am studying mechanical engineering at the University of Florida.
And I'm Catherine, and I study architectural engineering at Kansas State University.
The LIFE program mission statement is committed to provide a comprehensive environmental curriculum to inform the next generation. We believe we can achieve this by facilitating the implementation in schools and communities through interactive and theoretical-based educational opportunities.
We also have a vision statement, which is by introducing environmental education at an early age, educators have the opportunity to expand the awareness and knowledge of the next generations to have long-term and sustainable impacts. This is a quote from an American teacher and jazz musician. Through first-class education, a generation marches down the long, uncertain road of the future with confidence.
So 3 of our main ideas that we wanted to focus on were keeping students engaged. We want to keep all ages, K through 12, interested in what they are learning. We also want to provide personal plans. We know all schools and communities are different, and we believe there should be no financial barriers to prevent you from investing in this type of education.
The LIFE program is willing to give 6 services, such as personalization to understand the advantages and disadvantages schools have, whether it's in budgeting or in geography-based. We offer financial guidance in order for them to achieve the adequate funding for our program. And we want to establish a strong environmental educational curriculum with their current curriculum so they can easily digest it. And we want to offer training for all the educators who are willing to learn a little bit more about renewable energy resources. And we want to do long-term counseling to see how we have impacted the schools and communities. And we are willing to give a web support for direct customer service and outreach.
So these are the steps to our overall process. We start working with the schools and communities and developing their goals, personalizing what they want out of the program, and then we move on to determining the best timeline and course of action for them. After that, we work with them to figure out the financial plan and funding they will need to pursue, and moving on, we start training and implementing the program into the schools. And then we continue working with them long term to work with all the technological updates and just any issues they might face.
So there's a few distribution channels. First, we want to outreach to schools that already have environmental initiatives because they'll probably be willing to implement a program like this. And then we want to have more direct outreach to schools. Other than that, and then we also have a website contact where schools can learn about us and then directly contact us about our program.
So the basis for the research that we did came from a survey that was conducted in the 12 states that are highlighted in purple on the map. And we have included a variety of those statistics that made up the main portions of our program.
So 29% of principals report that environmental education and sustainability is reflected in the school's mission and priorities to a very great extent.
And then a couple of the other items are that resources available for environmental education and sustainability are not equitably distributed, which makes it more difficult for financially disadvantaged schools to become greener. And we want to give them that opportunity because the research has shown that more than 75, or about 3/4 of schools that are implementing environmental education are spending less than $5,000 through non-construction activities. And it's something that's completely possible for all schools if they realize what resources are available to them. And because 78% of schools have environmental education based as teacher-developed curricula, we want to take some of the work off of teachers' shoulders because they have so many things that they deal with already, and incorporate what they have already developed and continue to give them resources and things that are developed and give them training to implement them in a great way.
In order to successfully service our program, we must understand the challenges facing green schools today. One of them is underfunding. Most public schools in the United States are underfunded, and most of them focus on standardized testing, which I believe we could help through introducing renewable energy programs where they could become better standardized testers. And most of the plans today are big, chaotic, and we would like to standardize it and lead to a better progression so they can fully understand the problems we face today.
So this is a case study I found. It's actually a school in the town where I go to college. It's a magnet school, and it's called Sustainability Academy. It's for kindergarten through 5th grade. And my advisor's daughter was actually in kindergarten last year, and every year the grade has a question they answer, and theirs was, what is community? And it brought in both human and environmental. So they went on things like neighborhood walks, went to different grocery stores and restaurants to explore foods, and even traced the trajectory of monarchs that run through the area. So it's a nice reference point for our research.
We are willing to provide school-wide initiatives in order for the entire school to be engaged in these environmental educational opportunities such as composting, recycling, school gardens, and the green team.
This is an example of a curriculum that we could implement. Each grade has a different focus, and they could have more hands-on activities that can supplement it, like nature walks, local plant identification, field trips, and the concept of reduce, reuse, recycle. And every year each grade does a garbage pickup where they can make it into art and then put it into a gallery for the community to bring in locals. This is middle school. You can do things like service projects, lab and field work, and then I added a club in to introduce that earlier on. And then for high school, since you can pick your courses, most high schools usually have biology and chemistry, but I added more comprehensive courses, as well as general activities that can be implemented and a wider range of clubs.
The 3 key partners we would like to partner up with is the Department of Education, who have a Higher Education Sustainability Act, which was introduced by Senator Pat Murray in 2007, the Environmental Education Grants by the Environmental Protection Agency, and the National Education Association Foundation Grants. We would directly like to fund the public schools through Environmental Protection Agency funding, who have a $3 million budget for locally focused environmental education. There are 10 requests for proposals which are being issued nationally, one in each of these 10 regions listed. And they are willing to give 3 to 4 grants for each region, no less than $50,000 and no more than $100,000, for a total of 30 to 35 grants nationwide. The National Education Association funding would be indirectly for the schools, which would fund us, and we would offer discounts for all the schools who don't receive all the adequate funding for our program, who are willing, the grants are willing to develop and promote policy and practice that define a quality education profession and incubate sound practice with key learning benefits.
So as I said earlier, we're going to be a nonprofit, and to register for a nonprofit status, you have to be registered as an incorporated association with your local state. So we would go through that process first and then file our paperwork for nonprofit status, which would include all of our programming and our structure. And then we would have website development, and our goal would be to use someone who's still learning and would use it as an educational opportunity to help us with our website. So we estimate our startup cost to be about $2,650. From there, we would have our overhead costs, which would be a co-working space, any registration dues, and any training that we do for the people who are participating in our program. And this cost would be approximately $7,000. So with our proposed overhead cost and no salaries during the startup portion, as it is a nonprofit and would be volunteer-based, Life can sustainably propose a fee of $6,000 per client, which would be a school or a school district, and need only 2 clients in the first year to survive and continue to grow. Once we implement salaries, we would do so to make sure that we have qualified staff and can keep people in our program rather than going to take other opportunities. So we would anticipate having an outreach expert, a finance liaison, a curriculum developer, our webmaster, and a couple in-facility trainers. All of these salaries are based on the low end of the nonprofit spectrum because it still will be early stages in our development. And so we would estimate that to keep our program and to have all of the salaries paid for with the overhead costs, we would need about 40 clients to maintain the low fee of $6,000.
So there are multiple sustainable development goals that could be applied to what we are planning to do, but for now we are definitely focusing on the quality of education. And these are several others that definitely apply to our curriculum.
So overall, Life, as a program, we want it to be a consulting service that is a nonprofit, and we want to be able to reach out to schools across the financial spectrum and give them opportunities and help them find opportunities that they did not realize were possible, and that cover all areas of the spectrum for what they may or may not want to implement into their programs. Yep.
Since you're offering your business as a consulting type service, do you have a plan for reaching like a diverse demographic sort of group of schools? Because just like sort of based on that, like my initial thought would be that a lot of schools that would go for this type of program would be schools that already have well-established base programs. So like I'm wondering if you have any plans or thoughts about how to reach less privileged groups and communities.
What we had initially talked about was being able to reach out to schools and start by talking with principals and school boards to see interest. And we didn't specifically talk about areas, so it would depend kind of where we decided to base ourselves and expand, but it's an opportunity that would work in any school district, especially with so much grant money being available. Our services we would want you to pay. If you're receiving funding, we wouldn't want to start providing services and then have nothing available to the school. So that would all be taken into consideration, but we hadn't specifically picked geographical location to decide on that as much.